family's Lego Star Wars collection, reported to be worth up to $200,000, goes missing after being consigned to a bricks and minifigs store.
A YouTuber drives to American Fork to get it back. He gets pulled over, searched for heroin, raided on a warrant, and arrested.
And the internet says the Mormon Mafia did it. Today, we separate what's documented from what people want to be true. Hello, Eternal Family. Welcome to Post-Mormon, Postmortem's mini-sode, where we're talking about something of recent interest in Mormondom. I'm Jess.
And I'm Hannah. This is the story everyone is talking about this week. It started as a Lego dispute and turned into a Utah County story.
Here's the setup. In November 2023, Brian Mansell and his father consigned a large Lego Star Wars collection to a bricks and minifigs store in the Salem area of Oregon. They were selling because of the father's health. The Mansells put the value of that collection between $200,000 and $250,000.
Bricks and Minifigs corporate later put the realistic high end closer to $95,000 to $100,000. That gap is maybe the first thing in this story no one agrees on.
A year later, in November 2024, corporate terminated that Oregon store's franchise for unpaid accounts. New owners took over, and the Mansells' remaining Lego was in the store when it happened.
Or was it? Because the older owners say they have no way of knowing. In fact, no one seems to have answers about that. But corporate's position is that the consignment was a private deal with the old owners, that corporate never signed or authorized it, and that nobody at corporate had the collection. So what to do? The Mansells say, well, we don't have it either. We don't have our Lego or our money, so it's taken. And the old owners say they told corporate that the consignment existed and it was in the store when they left.
So that's the dispute. Now, the part that matters for this show, Bricks and Minifigs is a Utah company.
It was bought in 2018 by two brothers from Orem, Ammon and Matt McNeff. And if Ammon isn't a Mormon name, I don't know what is. They moved the headquarters to Orem. Ammon is the CEO. The company calls itself the BAM Fam. Orem, American Fork, and Provo all sit in Utah County, a heavily LDS part of Utah.
Enter Reckless Ben. His real name is Benjamin Snyder. He has nearly 1.5 million subscribers on YouTube. Before the Lego story, Reckless Ben was already known for stunt-driven investigations into an extreme haunted house, Scientology, and other high-control and controversial groups. His style is more infiltration, confrontation, spectacle, and pressure than quiet reporting.
Yeah, his name is not a misnomer. In May, he posted a series about tracking down who took the Mansells' Lego. He ran stunts. He created a mock company called We Steal From Old People. They put up signs across the street from their houses. They did a raffle of the collection through a nonprofit. And he went to Utah to serve papers on the people connected to the store.
This is where American Fork Police come in, and the timeline is specific, so stay with me. Back in March, over 4 days, a man named Joshua Johnson called American Fork Police repeatedly. Johnson is an American Fork resident and a Bricks and Minifigs employee.
He reported what he called harassment. Packages left at his house, somebody photographing the property, signs going up, a man in a cap with a UPS logo taped to it. On March 11th, police arrested Snyder and booked him into the Utah County Jail. The charges were misdemeanors: stalking, targeted residential picketing, disorderly conduct, and criminal trespass.
His footage shows more than that. His car was searched after police got a tip that it held heroin. None was found. His Airbnb was searched on a warrant. The affidavit said the homeowner overheard people inside talking about possibly stolen Lego. That search found nothing either.
Because that's how conversations go.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in an Airbnb, people on the outside of the home can hear you going, stolen Lego.
Right.
The American Fork police chief, Cameron Paul, he put out a 26-minute video on May 29th. I've watched the whole thing, walking through it day by day. His account is that officers were responding to Johnson's complaints about conduct in Utah, not taking a side in an Oregon business dispute. He said the body camera footage didn't support Snyder's injury claim. it's so frustrating. He so clearly misunderstands. Can I just lay out that the cop bends his arm behind his back, right? And when Reckless Ben talks about this on YouTube, he puts in the video what is clearly just a stock image of like a dislocated shoulder. But the cop doesn't understand how YouTube works. And he thinks that Ben is claiming that was his dislocated shoulder. And he thinks he's done a gotcha by saying, look, you can see clearly in the video that the cop is bending his left arm behind his back. But in this, image, it says up here, it's the right shoulder. Haha, we got him. And it's like, okay, you look like you don't know what you're talking about.
And
because
no
what you're
detective.
saying is the body camera footage doesn't support the injury claim, but you're not saying it for the right reasons. Okay. And some footage was redacted at the county attorney's request. He said, as of May 29th, there were no active warrants for Snyder in Utah.
Hold on to that last part, because a huge piece of the viral story is that Ben fled to Mexico to escape a secret no-bail warrant.
The department says there's no active warrant. Ben says the records contradict the chief and posted a point-by-point rebuttal that passed 1 million views. Both of those are in the record now.
But then it got stranger. On June 3rd, a folder labeled as unredacted body cam footage showed up in a Dropbox the chief himself had linked. Ben says it shows an officer shielding Johnson from being served. No one has confirmed whether that footage is real or how it got there.
The most frustrating thing about all this footage, about him trying to serve papers, is how easily he could have just served the papers if he knew how papers get served. It was entirely unnecessary. So around the same time, Bricks and Minifigs sued Snyder and Brian Mansell, the original consignment Star Wars Lego guy, calling it a coordinated multi-platform campaign and using words like extortion and racketeering. A Utah court issued a restraining order on May 28th that blocks Ben from releasing part 3 of his series. He says it's finished and he can't post it without risking the Mansell's family GoFundMe, which has now generated over $450,000.
And then corporate cut the new owners loose. So on June 4th, Bricks and Minifigs closed the Oregon store and said it had parted ways with Brandon Bess and Joshua Johnson. The CEO offered Brian Mansell a settlement and said he could take whatever Star Wars Lego was in the store, whether it was his or not.
A supplier dropped the company. Patreon CEO refused to take Ben's page down. That's roughly where it stands, and it's been moving every day.
So let's talk about the Mormon angle, because it's why this hit our DMs about 100 times. So the claim is Ben's. The American Fork Police protected the franchise people because they're all LDS, and that shared church membership is the glue. Online, people shorten that to the Mormon Mafia.
Okay, here's what we know that's documented. The company is Utah County and culturally Mormon. The setting is one of the densest LDS populations in the United States. And the police conduct on the footage that's out there, it looks lopsided to a lot of people, including American Fork residents who took it to a city council meeting.
Here's what isn't documented. There's no evidence that any officer acted on church instruction. No evidence that a bishop, a stake, or the institution touched this. Ben himself has not produced proof of coordination. What we have is a town where almost everyone shares a religion and a police response that looks pretty one-sided. The jump from those two facts to an organized church conspiracy is the one the audience is making. It's not one that the evidence makes. But that jump is interesting by itself.
It is, because of why it's so easy to make. So transparently easy to make sometimes. Utah County is a place where the same people are in your ward, your business networks, and your civic offices. In the Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell trial, I think about 75% of the attorneys in that room were LDS and knew each other through those connections on both sides and the judge, right? So that's what it looks like in the Mormon corridor. Membership is social capital. When everyone in a transaction shares the same church and the same ward boundaries, favoritism and the appearance of favoritism get very hard to tell apart.
They do. It's the same reflex we talk about all of the time. Protect the in group, protect authority, and treat public criticism as the bigger danger.
The instinct to protect the in-group and to protect your authority first is built into high-control religious culture. It's the instinct that makes a Mormon Mafia story land as the obvious truth for outsiders. I say outsiders, but when I say outsiders, I also mean ex-Mormons, right? People who were formerly insiders and now we're on the outside. We especially, of all people, know that instinct. You're spot on. If you think you're seeing shady business, you are. Now, TBMs, they're going to hear the same story as a total smear, spreading hate. But the evidence does not prove that loyalty drove the police response, right? I mean, we can see what we can see. We can also just see a shared social world that makes the appearance of favoritism extremely hard to dismiss.
Right. And the institution, the church, gets to stand back from all of it. There's nothing tying the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as an institution to a stolen Lego collection. That's true. It's also true that the church spent a century and a half building exactly this kind of dense, loyal, inward-facing community, and it carries none of the formal responsibility when that density produces something ugly. So where does that leave us?
A family says their collection was taken. A YouTuber turned it into the biggest story currently on the internet. A Utah police department behaved in a way that looks one-sided and hasn't fully explained itself. A Utah company shed the two men at the center and offered to pay up to the victims. And the church conspiracy version is the only part still running entirely on inference.
The documented story is bad enough without the whole mafia bit.
Because you don't need a secret Mormon cabal to explain this. You need a tight community, an instinct to protect your own, and a police department operating inside a heavily Mormon social world. So if all of that is documented, then, I mean, the cabal part is just running on a hunch, but you can see what you can see.
That's it for today. Thanks for spending your time with us. If this episode resonated with you, or even if it didn't, tell us in the comments.
We will try to keep up on the Reckless Ben situation in as much as it involves the world of Mormondom.
You can find us also on Instagram and TikTok and online at postmortem.com. And of course, wherever you get your podcast.
If you know someone who loves a good deep dive into religious dysfunction or just can't stop watching the Lego Saga, send them our way. Until then, Jess, I am sorry for what I said when I was Mormon.
I'm sorry for what I said when I was Mormon too.